What's going on, everybody, and welcome back into Heated Shenanigans Podcast. I am your host, Scott, and normally at the top of these episodes, I would do some big introduction to our guest. However, I am joined by a man that truly needs no introduction because he has been seen on the red carpet, WrestleMania, professional wrestling scrums around the world, the one and only Chris Van Vliet.
Scott, thank you so much for having me. Let's get into some shenanigans here.
It's what we do best here. Well, I wanted to talk about at the top of this. There's so many things to talk about with you because you've had such an interesting and fascinating career. But one thing I wanted to get in at the top of the episode is you have interviewed so many people from AEW, Impact, and WWE. And in professional wrestling, there's such a diverse tribalism, it feels like. I was wanting to get your thoughts on it. It feels like you can't just like one type of professional wrestling.
What a strange time we're in right now, by the way. You know, it's just so strange that we're all picking from the wrestling buffet, if you will. And I think what's so strange about where we're at right now is if you and I were to go to a buffet, Scott, and I were to fill my plate with the things I like, and you were to fill your plate with the things that you like, and we went back to our table and enjoyed a nice meal, I wouldn't be sitting there going, oh man, you got the crab legs. Why'd you get the crab legs? You could have got the sirloin. Or, well, you got those little red Jello cubes. What? Who gets those? This is so strange. We would just enjoy our meal together. And I think at the end of the day, people forget that we are wrestling fans. Okay, it doesn't matter what letters you like the most or the least. It doesn't matter. We like wrestling, and that's always been where I've come from. And when I really got into wrestling during the Monday Night Wars, I watched it all. I watched WWF, I watched Nitro, I watched ECW. When that era ended, I was watching TNA, and I just love it all. And I wish there were more people that could appreciate the time that we're in right now, rather than trying to pick apart the things they don't like about the show they don't even watch.
That's pretty spot on, Chris. And another thing that had come up, and I had watched, and I thought it was not funny, but like a good exchange. You were at the WrestleMania scrum for night one and night two, but night one specifically, with the interaction with Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns. What was that moment like for you, Chris? And was that something that you guys had talked about before, and was that just like off the cusp?
I feel like I might be in an angle now with the bloodline. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I've got a score to settle here, but I think when you look at that moment, it just proves that Paul Heyman, we already knew this, but that moment just shows Paul Heyman is the very best at what he does. He is a Hall of Famer for a reason. He is not just the best heel manager of all time, he's probably the best manager of all time. And to be involved in that kind of exchange and to be on the receiving end of it was pretty cool. You know, it was pretty cool to be part of that. And I just know that whoever asked that first question was going to get that treatment. It just happened to be me in that moment.
Well, you took it like a true professional. I don't know how many people would have on the spot with those two individuals, two of the biggest names in professional wrestling, to have that interaction. Maybe some people act a different way, but I thought you handled that like a true professional.
What's funny is all the previous WWE press conferences that they had, you'll remember this, the camera was pointed on the person who was asking the questions. At WrestleMania, they didn't do that. The camera was pointed where it should be, at the front of the room with the people that are speaking at the front of the room. So you're just hearing my voice there. It would have been a totally different interaction for everybody watching had you seen the reaction on my face, because I was like smiling and laughing. I'm like, is this happening? This is real? All right, well, let's roll with this.
Make the most of it. Well, Chris, over all the interviews and the dozens, hundreds, maybe even thousands at this point of interviews that you have conducted, what interview has had the greatest personal impact on you? And I guess the second part to this would be, what interview do you regret not doing?
That's such an interesting question. And I think that every interview, it's special in its own way. And what I love about this is an interview is really just a conversation, right? It's just two people having a conversation in a moment in time that happens to be captured either with audio or with video or both. And what I love about that is there's always something from every conversation that either means something to me or to you or somebody listening that they can take and go, oh, wow, I now see that person in a different light. Or, wow, that story they told about this thing makes me think about life in a different way. The interview I did with John Cena during WrestleMania 35 weekend, so in 2019, he said 3 words during that interview that have stuck with me ever since, and I will never forget. It's control the controllable. And it's just such a simple phrase, but it's so powerful. You don't have control over what people say. You don't have control over what people do. But what you do have control over is how you react to what other people say or what other people do. And him distilling it down to 3 simple words like that really changed my perspective on life. So that was personally for me probably the most important conversation that I've had on camera. The interview that I wish I could have done, that unfortunately I'll never have the chance to do, is I wish I had a chance to talk to Eddie Guerrero. You know, one of the all-time greats, taken from us far, far too early. He's only 39. And crazy to think that I'm now older than Eddie was when he passed. And that puts things in perspective too, that like, I don't feel like I've lived a full life yet. And I can't even imagine if this was taken away. So yeah, Eddie's one that, man, if I love Back to the Future. If I had that time machine, if I had that DeLorean, I'd be going back to have a conversation with him.
Say, and again, the list of people you have had is a who's who, and you've excelled to such heights as an interviewer, as a media figure. Over the course of your career, Chris, what would you say, what year do you think you experienced the most growth, and what led to that growth?
I feel like it's honestly every year. Like I feel like every single year, it's just, you know, you're building on what you had before. So my career started in radio in 2004. I was working as a board operator while I was still in college during my senior year. That was at that time the biggest year of my career. Then the next year, an internship turned into a job at a small TV station in Peterborough, Ontario, Canada. Well, that then was the biggest year of my career. And then, you know, it kept kind of compounding on itself. So I would say I've just been really, really fortunate. I've been so incredibly lucky to have the opportunities that I've had. And I've also been fortunate to be able to take advantage of some of these moments when they've happened. So I don't know if there's been like one specific year where like, oh man, that year changed everything for me. I think it's just an accumulation of all of it together that is allowing me to be here right now, and also allowing me to be at Blizzard Brawl in Wisconsin, where we met. By the way, thank you for purchasing my breakfast. What a lovely surprise. I went to get the bill and the server was like, yeah, there's no bill. It's been taken care of. And I turned around and you guys were at the table behind me. And I'm like, thank you. Thank you for that.
Oh, the other side of that story is we had brought in Sandman, Francine, and Bill Alfonso for the signing for Dave Hero. And this whole encounter started with originally meeting SoCal Val for cocktails at 8, 9 a.m. in the morning. And so we get there, Val had to go do something else, but we still wanted to eat. So we get there and we're standing there waiting to be seated. And one of my business partners, he looks, he's like, oh my God, that's Chris. And I look and I was like, there's a lot of Chris's. So I don't know which Chris he was talking about. Sure. And I look and I was like, oh my goodness, that is Chris Van Vliet. So we took our table. And my thing is, I don't ever like interrupting somebody's meal. As bad as I wanted to talk to you, I was like, you know what? He's enjoying his meal. This might be the only private time he gets all day. So we'll just sit and out of courtesy, we'll pay for his meal. So we did that. And then you were gracious enough to come over and give us some of your time and talk with us, which you didn't have to do, which was great.
Well, and that's led us to where we are right now. But again, thank you. That was very kind and very generous of you. And it was a lovely surprise. So thank you.
I didn't even know you were going to be there. There was no advertising that you were going to be there.
Yeah, I'm good friends with Dave Hero. And I reached out to him maybe about a week before. And I said, what a lineup you have for Blizzard Brawl. if I fly in, do you think I could get maybe 2 or 3 interviews? He's like, you can get whatever you want. I said, all right, well, which hotel are we staying at? He gave me the name of it, and that was it. I ended up getting, I think I got 3. I did 3 there, and I lined up like 2 more. So I'm like, done. Incredible. And what a show it was. What a show.
Dave puts on some of the absolute best shows.
Yeah, he's fantastic. So shout out to Dave Hero.
Oh, absolutely. Dave's a good friend. And also his son, Cal Hero, remarkable professional wrestler.
Absolutely. And he's at the very start of his career right now. He's already done so much. I can't wait to see what's next for Cal.
Oh, man. Are you going to go this year to Blizzard Brawl?
I mean, I don't see why not. I had such a great time last year. And if the card is anything like it was last year, I know it's going to deliver. So yeah, sure. See you there.
Yeah, we're going to be there as well.
Perfect.
Well, another thing I'd wanted to ask you, in all your time doing this, you've had the opportunity to have so many wonderful conversations and so many great life experiences. What would you say is one lesson that you learned while doing interviewing and broadcasting that you didn't expect to learn, and how did it change your career afterwards?
So the first thing that comes to mind for me was when I interviewed The Rock on the red carpet for the Ballers premiere. Think about this. So The Rock, is successful in doing everything that he's doing right now. His goal in life was to play in the NFL, which, he didn't accomplish. In Ballers, he plays a character who did that and is now retired. So interesting that character lived the dream and The Rock didn't. So I asked The Rock if you could go back and change anything to live that life that Spencer Strathmore did live, would you change anything? Obviously, things worked out pretty well for you, but would you change anything? And he told me something I'll never forget. He said, sometimes the best things in life are the things that don't happen. And it's that idea of like, sometimes you have your mind set on this thing. If this thing doesn't happen, it's all going to fall apart, or this is the goal I have in mind. And if you think about that, it's so applicable to our lives. Like sometimes life throws you a curveball and it ends up being a much better outcome than the thing that you originally planned. So that's probably been it for me, is that idea that sometimes life and the universe have a better plan for you.
And that is very profound, that viewpoint.
And it's true. I mean, we can all think of examples about like that in our own life.
Very relatable. Now, you also do Hollywood interviews as well as opposed to wrestling interviews. Which did you actually get into first? Was it the Hollywood side or the professional wrestling side?
It was definitely the Hollywood side. I actually started in news. So it was a lot of news interviews. That turned into me being an entertainment reporter and interviewing actors and comedians and directors. And then, wrestling falls under that umbrella of entertainment. So I started doing wrestling interviews, very rarely, but whenever WWE or TNA would come to town, I would do an interview with a wrestler. So that's kind of where that started. But I would say that over the course of my entire career, I've probably talked to more non-wrestlers than I have wrestlers. Like actually this weekend, I'm flying to New York City. I'm interviewing J-Lo for her new movie on Netflix called Atlas. Like I still get to do those incredible things. I still get those amazing opportunities. But at the end of the day, I'm a big wrestling fan, and I love the opportunity to talk to some of my favorite wrestlers from when I grew up and some of the people who are crushing it now.
Absolutely. Well, before we wind down here, I felt I was trying to come up with a great way to end this episode, and I feel that there's only one way to end this. You have asked so many people at the end of your episodes, what are 3 things that you're grateful for? And today, Chris, I would like to ask you in conclusion here, what are 3 things that you are grateful for?
And so fitting that I'm wearing the grateful shirt with the 3 in the middle. I didn't even plan this out. I love that question. And the reason I ask that question at the end of every episode is it's really easy to get caught up in whatever, you're dealing with that day or that week or that month. And it's easy to forget that you've got a lot of great things in your life. So I ask that question at the end of every interview because number one, I'm curious, what are 3 things that this person who's so successful, what are 3 things they're grateful for? And also anybody who's listening or watching who, maybe life's not going their way right now, or maybe it's been a bad day or week or month or year. I want them to be able to see that there's things in their own life you can be grateful for. So, maybe it's a roof over your head, maybe it's a family, maybe it's your health, but whatever it happens to be. For me today, I woke up and I was said out loud, I was grateful for my family. I'm so fortunate to have people around me that I love. I'm grateful for our health and the health of people that I love. And I'm grateful for opportunity. Like, how cool is it that you and I are sitting here on different sides of the planet or different sides of the country and chatting like we're sitting next to each other? I love that we're in a time right now where that's even possible. I love the opportunities that we have in front of us. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to take advantage of those opportunities. So that's it for me. It's a short list of 3. It could be 300, but there's 3.
Hey, that's perfect. And guys, in conclusion here, I would absolutely love to thank my guest today, Chris Van Vliet, for his time. Very loaded schedule. The man's all over the United States, sometimes the world, but very grateful and honored to have Chris Van Vliet on today's episode. And guys, do check out Chris Van Vliet on YouTube, Insight with Chris Van Vliet on all social media platforms for your podcasting pleasure. Make sure to download and listen. Amazing stuff. Chris is one of the true greats, true professionals, and I can't say enough kind things about Chris Van Vliet.
Thank you for the very kind words, Scott. Appreciate your time today. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And the door is always open for you, sir, to come back on in the future.
I might kick that door in. Who knows?
Hey, we'd love to have you on again, Chris.
Thanks again, Scott.
Absolutely. Well, guys, everybody out there, have a great week. Stay safe, and we will see you on the next episode.